It's time to move on to step 5. Now, step 5 actually has 2 parts. The first part would be the trade valuation, walk around with the customer, and then the test drive. And the reason we want to combine the two is that it's a time saver for customers. One of the things they always hate about coming to a car dealership is how much time it takes, but there's some other benefits too. And for example, there's some other benefits as well. For example, it gives us control of their keys, which we can use to our advantage. When we come back, it gives us an excuse to come back in this dealership. A lot of times people try to escape after a test drive. So it gives us the opportunity to bring them back inside and maybe get the desk to come help you. But let's focus on 5A, which is going to be the silent walk around with the customer. And this is probably one of the more skipped steps that kills more car deals or costs more time and money than anything else. I'll tell you a quick story that I learned from my own experiences. I'll be honest and say that when I sold cars, I virtually never took a customer out with me to go look at their car. And even when I got into management, I was pretty bad about it until one day I was buying cars for this dealership that I used to work at. And a guy called from about 2 hours away and he said, "Look, I'm not coming in unless you give me an idea what my car is worth." When he came in, he sit in my office and I said, "Well, give me your keys. I'll go out and take a look at your car." I took about 2 steps outside my office door and I thought, wait a minute, follow your process. So I went back in and said, "Hey, come on, let's go outside and look at your car." So when we walked out there, I asked him 3 questions, which I'll go over here in a little bit, but I asked him 3 questions. And when I got up to the car, I could see very clearly even from about 50 feet away, they had a cracked windshield. And I said, "Ooh, you got a cracked windshield?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Those aren't cheap." And he said, "Yeah, tell me about it. I've already replaced one." I said, "Oh, so you really know how expensive those are?" And he said, "Yeah." And this was on a ridgeline, so it wasn't a cheap windshield. Then I got a little bit closer and I saw that it had a cracked fog light. I said, "Oh man, you got a cracked fog light." He said, "Yeah." He said, "I live out in the country. I catch a bunch of stones out there. It's pretty common." Then I got up to the vehicle a little bit closer and I noticed that all 4 tires needed to be replaced. And then I looked at it down the side of the passenger side and there was door dings all over the side of it. Then I got around to the driver's side and it looked like somebody took a can opener to the edge of the door of the driver's door. I said, "Man, how'd that happen?" He saw my wife backed into the house and bent the door edge back. I said, "Boy, that's going to take some effort there. I got to paint the whole side of the car." He said, "Okay, whatever." So we went back inside and I got a salesperson to help him out and I put a deal together. I handed it to the salesperson. About 10 minutes later, he came back. The salesperson came back and said, "Hey, he told you, he said, hey, he said that you told him his car was worth between 24 and 25,000. I said, "Come on, let's go talk to him." So I went in to the office and he said, "Hey, what are you trying to do here? You told me 24 or 25. And I said, "Well, you're right. Your car is worth 24 or 25. If I didn't have to spend $5,000 or $6,000 to make it saleable." I said, "You didn't tell me on the phone that it needed a windshield. No, you didn't tell me about any of the other damage or the fact that it needed tires." And I put it all together, and it looks like it's going to be about $6,000. So if we take $6,000 and we subtract 25, that leaves us with 19,000. I offered you 21. That's pretty good. That's pretty generous. And he just the look on his face, you could tell he's like, "Oh, he's got me." So you see, I said, "Yeah," I said, 21 is pretty fair. And he said, "Well, could you do 22? And I said, "No, if I could have done 22, I'd offer you 22. I don't like playing games." He goes, "How about we split the difference, 21.5? And I said, "No, 21 is the best I can do, especially when I consider all that I have to do to this and the time it's going to take me." And he kind of, "Okay, let's do it." So the point lesson there is that when you get into a negotiation, it's highly unlikely they're going to be happy with the number that we give them for their vehicle. And if they do, there's probably some defect that we don't know about. But generally, they're going to want to negotiate on the value of their trade. And most everyone looks at Kelley Blue Book, and they always overvalue their car. They might look at excellent if it's in good condition, or what, and so on. Or sometimes they even look at private party or retail. But by going out there with them, you subtly remind them the customer that their car isn't Kelly excellent or Kelly very good or whatever. So that when we get into a negotiation about their trade, if they question the value of their trade, we can say, well, you're right. Your car would be worth that number, but I've got to spend some money to fix these things to make it sellable. Would you buy a car like this? And that takes, so that, if I hadn't done that, we'd have gone back and forth for probably another half an hour, and who knows, maybe a guy would have left thinking that I lowballed him or whatever. So that's a very, very important step to not skip, is take the customer with you. And how to go about it is, just as I said, say to the customer, hey, let's go out, let's have some fun. We'll switch roles. You go out and let's walk outside and you can show me and sell me your car. Now, while you're on your way out there, we want to ask them 3 questions. Now, before I explain what the 3 questions are, keep in mind that the whole purpose of the silent walk around is to what? Devalue their trade. And if a customer's been anywhere or they're going to go anywhere after they've talked to you, that's basically what's going to happen. And they're going to pick apart their car and they're going to sound like they're trying to devalue their car. Well, we're going to take a different approach. We're going to make it sound like we're trying to add value to their car, which is going to give them more confidence and trust in us. So we're going to ask them 3 questions. The first question is, have you done anything to it recently that would add value, like brakes or tires or scheduled maintenance? Of course, if they say yes, well, we could offer them a little bit more money for that, especially if we get in a situation where the buyer feels like he has to stretch to make the deal work. I might feel better about it if I don't have to put a set of tires on it that might cost me $1,000. Now, we may not give them $1,000 for a set of tires, but if we can, if they need a little bit more, we're in a position to do that. So the second question would be, when you bought this vehicle, did you purchase an extended service contract or a warranty? And the reason I ask is, depending on how much time is left, you might have some money coming back. Well, again, that sounds like you're trying to help them. Now, if his answer is yes, well, maybe we could offer him a little bit more money because if it had a problem, that got taken care of because you had a warranty to cover it. But the other thing, too, is that plants the seed for the buyer that maybe I should consider buying a warranty if it's going to help me with the value of my vehicle. And by saying that you might have some money coming back, it sounds like you're trying to help them, not devalue them. If they bought it, great. If they didn't, that's not your fault. You're trying to help them. And then the last question would be, they call them keys, but they've gotten so expensive. Do you have both keys? It's a very important question because there's nothing worse than your manager having to stretch for a car deal and then find out that it's one key, and depending on, it's $300 to $400, sometimes more than that for a new key, a replacement key. And if it's going to be a certified pre-owned, it has to have a second key. So that's something to consider. So those are just 3 simple questions that you can ask that'll help you to build some rapport, gain some trust, gain some insight into the vehicle. And we don't want to skip this step because it's going to give us that information and really kind of reset their mind to what the true condition of their vehicle is as it relates to Kelley Blue Book or some other evaluating thing that they saw online. And that's going to move us to 5B, which is the test drive. Okay, for the test drive, we're going to call that 5B. And one thing to remember is that when we go on a test drive, we're really not trying to sell them a car yet. And what I mean by that is, I found that when I was doing test drives, before we'd leave the lot, I would say to the customer, hey, I try not to talk a lot during a test drive. I want you to experience the car, not my nasally voice. And almost every one of them said, oh, thank God, the last guy we had wouldn't shut up. So it's not the time to be trying to point out things and ask them how they feel about this. It's really time for them to settle in, experience the car. If it's a new car, get the new car smell, feel the comfort of the seats and things like that. Another thing that I would tell you is that I would highly recommend you do not demonstrate the technology features like collision mitigation and lane control and things like that. And the reason is because sitting in the passenger seat, or if you happen to be in the back seat, you really can't tell if it's even engaged or what setting it's set at. and you don't have control, and you've got somebody unfamiliar with these things, and you have no idea where they are. And of course, what does somebody do if they come into a situation? They're going to tap the brake, and what does that do? That turns that system off. And the reason I say that is we had an experience at a dealership where I used to work where that's exactly what happened. The salesperson let them demonstrate those features, and it was the forward collision mitigation, and apparently the customer had turned it off because it tapped the brakes and they plowed it in the back of somebody. We got sued for a bunch of money. So we want to avoid those things at all possible. Now back to the test drive. When you get to pull up the car and pull up to the door wherever you're going to have it, and have the heater on or the AC on, whatever is appropriate for climate control, tune it to a station that if you have a sense for what kind of music the customer would like to listen to, have it on there. If not, pick something that's kind of not too, sort of benign, and don't have the volume cranked up very loud. You just want it to be very low. And then when you get out, before you let them get in, you want to stop and say, okay, show them how to adjust the seat. Show them how to adjust the mirrors. Show them how to adjust. Well, the steering wheel is probably not something we want to mess with, but certainly you want to show them how to adjust the seat and how to adjust the mirrors. And before you leave, I would let them play with the infotainment system, because you don't want them to do that, be playing with that while you're out on a test drive. You want them paying attention to the road. And this is also a good time to show some of the features like the backup camera and some of the driving assist type features that are available on the vehicle. So we want to do those things before. There's kind of two ways of going about it. One is you let the customer drive the car off the lot. The other is that you drive the car off the lot and you go to a predetermined spot and you switch. There's advantages to both. I like the idea of driving the car off the lot because maybe I'm in a little more control. And the other thing too is stay off of secondary, like residential streets. Stay off of those. You want to stay on some kind of a highway, primary road, so that it's controlled by traffic lights. You get on these neighborhood streets, you don't know if a kid or a pet's going to run out in front of you, and that would be horrible. So you don't want to get involved in the neighborhoods. And then once you switch drivers, take a second and let them get adjusted, the mirrors and things like that. And again, as I said, when you're driving on the test drive, don't do a lot of talking. You can certainly, as I said, say, listen, I'm not going to talk a lot, but I'll be happy to answer any questions and give you directions. And then on the return trip to the dealership, that is when I would ask the competitive analysis question, where I would say, hey, by the way, what are the cars you've been looking at? And they'll go through those series of questions. And then that's also a good time to talk about maybe the warranty that the vehicle has and things like that. So, but for the most part, you really want them to experience the car more than just you pointing out features and things like that. You should do all that stuff before you leave. Okay. So that's the test drive. Another important step, and that's going to lead us to step 6.